Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and as usual I've been having a really busy week, but also as usual I have a plugin for you. This is the follow-up to the stuff I was doing in the field of reverb, and it's just a little additional thing, a little point that you can't quite reach with the previous reverbs that I've put out. And I'm calling it Infinity, because that's what it's about. So here, what you've got is this little plugin, and as you can see, I still haven't recorded more music, but I mean, life has been really busy lately. And it does stuff kind of like this. It is the householder reverb algorithm with some twists and additional things going on. And what you're hearing is it doing an infinite reverb, because that's what the householder algorithm can do. You have these 4 delay taps and you can sustain stuff forever. Now in Logic, what happens is if I click to reset this, it'll reset all of the plugins, so it'll start over. We can have a noise like that. If I put damping on, it will begin sort of slowly fading away. And that's not to say that it will go away entirely. It's not that kind of damping. But it'll go towards the plausible acoustics in air behavior. That stuff will fall away, as if you were in an infinitely large cavern of some kind. This filter does not get into the feedback loop, but it will control aliasing going into the plugin and also filter the output of it. And that'll get you darker tones and sort of pads and stuff. And seeing as it's controlling both the input and the output of the plugin, you can move that around, fool with it, perhaps automate it. At full filtering, it's going to be a little bit bright. For instance, I can switch on this other sound. And there we have a nice little infinite reverb thing going on. If I turned, here, let's put it onto something else. Because there's another thing going on here, which is, if we blasted this with the full mix, it's got processing where input stuff coming in is going to start pushing down and supplanting the stuff that's already in there. So it's an infinite reverb, but it's like there's a kind of limiting on it, so that if you're hitting it with everything going on at once, it won't just build up to the point where it blows up your mix. Instead, it'll kind of try to moderate its volume. As soon as the levels are not overwhelming again, what you get is this infinite sustain going on. And that's really the only way to control it. Damping doesn't really make it go quiet, so you'll probably want to use maybe dry wet or something. And you can hear the synthesizer noise in here is starting to take over what's in there. And I could also do a tiny sized thing, which is like a different type of effect, but this is also infinite reverb. It's just an annoying kind of gong-like sound. And as you can hear, it's doing that, or we can have it damp so that it'll fade away, kind of like a real gong or something. And we'll hear this drone come back in again. And it'll start to supplant what's in the loop, which is actually, since it's the householder algorithm, it's 4 loops that all feed back into each other. But this is how you can get really bright infinite sounds, or loud noises going on like you just heard. And you can blast the entire full mix into it if you wanted. Or again, moving the playhead in Logic puts it back to a reset. And you can use it in any of these ways. Like, it's going to hang on to this, since the size is so small, it's acting kind of like a gong or something. But we can also put it to a much larger size, at which point it'll start acting more like an infinite reverb, a proper reverb. And you pick the degree of filtering that you want in there. Like, filtering of 1.0 is going to be bright enough that it might not sound convincingly like a reverb, but bury it in filtering, and you get kind of a low type of sound. Here, let's fire something else in here. A bit of bass in there, and let's just throw in a bass guitar, seeing as we have it so filtered. Now we've got a sort of low throbbing kind of effect going on. We can also kill the damping and start sneaking up the filter for when this drone effect comes back in. And again, the way this works, it is going to replace stuff that's actually in the loops with new information coming in if the new information is there. Otherwise, if it's silent, it'll just sit on it forever. So now we have a texture. It's quite a loud sounding texture. And if I leave this playing forever, it's just going to keep doing this forever. Damping is at 0, filter is at 1. So we're going to have this texture infinitely until we put something else in. Like, for instance, I think there's a snare sample making the noise. So that's going to throw some white noise kind of stuff in there. Or we could throw our guitar in there. And it doesn't matter how loud we make them. We can have stereo guitars. And as you can hear, those are sitting on the sides. A lot of this stuff was in the middle. And let's play with that a little bit. We're going to go back to the drone. That's on one side. And that's in another. So now we have simultaneous stereo infinite reverb that's doing these noises, and we've got it back in the center again, so added a little tiny bit of pan to the middle, and we have just painted a little picture of funny synthetic noises. Let's put something sort of semi to the left. There we go. And infinity is making all these things sit in the places that we put them in the stereo image. We can filter them, or we can apply damping to make it kind of subtly die off a little bit. But if you have ways of feeding information into this to make your kind of soundscapes, your ambient spaces, it will honor what you're doing in stereo. So that if you feed stuff in on left or right, it's going to continue to sit forever in left and right. Or let's just say you start getting even crazier. I'm panning stuff back and forth now. And that's what that was just then. And there you have it. So yeah, the previous reverbs didn't do this exactly. This is a more specialized tool designed for like filling in stuff kind of like this. For instance, if I was to say this is called sine-based pulse. And I've used it to throw in, let's throw in a touch of, actually no, Distrone is not on at the moment. Where else do I have in here somewhere? Because now these sounds are going to sit forever. I've got what I'm calling sparkle chord. Let's throw in a touch of that on the right side. There we go. So it's basically a add new stuff to the pile of infinite reverb anywhere in the stereo width that you want. And it'll stay where you put it. And everything will sustain until you say, shut everything off. At which point it just overwhelms by throwing lots more stuff in there. Or we could go purely on right now I'm using guitars. I'm going to see whether I can't get a sustainy thing going on here. Let's try to get a suitable moment that makes a sustained chord. I'm not that convinced about that one. We could also throw on some damping, just for the heck of it. How about this? How about listening to some of the dry while I do it? That'll give me a slightly better sense of what it's doing. There, that's a chord. So now what we can do is use this as a kind of sustaining chord to bring in and out and do whatever we want with. Almost like a synthesizer, except for, of course, it's not. If I have full damping on, by the time we get to the end of whatever track this is, it will have made itself go a little darker. And of course I can always do that with the filter while leaving it sustaining forever. Or we can throw a little more information in there. There's our tool. So there you have it. Infinity is a audio unit and VST reverb plugin that I hope you will find amusing. Here, I don't really need to be running that any longer. And for those of you who like this kind of thing, I hope it's a useful tool. It's a kind of specialized. I mean, you could use other reverbs for this, or the reverbs I put out for this, but they're not really designed to do the literally infinite reverb thing. That's what this is specializing in, is the ability to put in a pad, not have to worry about your levels too much. Like, it will compensate for whatever you put in there so that you don't wind up horribly distorting everything. But just building a sustaining pad that just sits forever. I could see this as a tool that people could use sort of fundamentally for their genre, like they're doing ambient space music or something. So basic parts of their track and their mix would be composed of firing up Infinity, possibly automating the level of it in the mix, and then just recording stuff in there specifically for the purpose of driving it with new sound coming in, and just setting up the pad, the bed of whatever you're doing with it. I hope you like it. It's sort of the last shoe to drop. Technically shoe 3, so I don't want to speculate too much about that one. And yeah, if you would buy this all by itself as if it was being sold at $50 a pop, and you get to own it forever on all of your computers as many times as you want, and also get the source code and be able to release your own versions of it, which is a pretty lenient license if you ask me, then you can of course always go and throw more money towards my Patreon. I am still planning the thing where if I do hit $2,000 a month, I'm going to start sending people out electronic parts. And we're going to start doing a DIY synth thing. I'm charging ahead with great alacrity towards that goal. And some of the stuff that I'm doing recently is kind of also in the line of being able to focus on stuff like that. You might have noticed, if you follow me on, say, social media, that I am one of the perhaps not many people out there who have deleted all social media. That's right, pretty much everything. I deleted my Twitter. I deleted my Facebook, which also includes the Airwindows AU plugins Facebook, because that was never fundamental as to how I communicate with people. It was only getting sort of auto posts. Anyway, so there was nothing new on that. There's a Facebook group called Airwindows Audiophiles. That was never mine. That's still there. I completely approve of people doing that, but I'm not going to be on Facebook because I was doom scrolling too much, and I just don't feel that stuff like Facebook and Twitter are really good for you. Certainly not good for me. And lastly, I bailed off of Discord because I found that, I don't know, I just don't find socializing with people on chat rooms and things like that was working out very well for me. I had some experiences that maybe weren't great, and some experiences that were wonderful. Like I dropped by the Surge synthesizer at Discord and helped them come up with a oscillator, and that was exciting. It remains to be seen whether the oscillator makes it into the synthesizer, but I'm not in control of that. So Surge is coming up with a way of being able to code oscillators in Faust, which can be run on the web, in a web browser, and ways of taking oscillators that you build in Faust and incorporating it into the synth. So that's very interesting and exciting. But I've got my own stuff to do, so I need to kind of double down and focus on that, and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, I guess I won't be seeing you folks around the Twitters and Facebooks and things like that, but I'm still going to be making my live streams and probably increasing them as I see fit. And anybody who wants to catch up with me can the YouTube thing, which is kind of like social media, only not. It's all too complicated. But if you want my YouTube to be super popular, do the usual, like and subscribe and blah, blah, blah. Up thumb, down thumb, doesn't matter. Either way, it's engagement. I don't usually ask for that. I'm not really asking for it now. We'll see what we can make out of all this. In any case, today's plugin was Infinity, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.